This is a Tracking the Tropics update with a certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
All right, we are tracking the tropics. Welcome to it. I got you for a half hour, and we got every minute of it will fill up with a good bit of discussion. I'm Chief Meteorologist Lewis Turner here at First Coast News. Glad you're streaming along with us. So we've got a couple of situations out in the tropics right now. We've known about Hurricane Umberto, now a Category 3 hurricane, a major hurricane, forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane, but we're also going to watch for potential Tropical Cyclone 9 and when it becomes Imelda eventually, and forecast to do that sometime over the weekend, probably even by tomorrow. But let's talk about our main impacts. So big three headlines. These could be adjusted as we go through the weekend, but for now, very similar to what we've been talking about, though there have been some big changes in modeling that could impact our friends in the Carolinas. Main impacts east of the First Coast Monday, and we'll be watching big coastal impacts, especially Sunday night, really ramping up Monday, perhaps even into Tuesday morning with rough seas, surf, dangerous rip currents. So we've got to be watching out for that. For anybody who might be thinking about getting in the water, not going to be ideal beach conditions. And forecast to be Tropical Storm Imelda by Saturday. But we are getting a forecast cone with this now. So Hurricane Center, when they issued potential tropical cyclone, that allows more forecast products like cones to be issued. Then, of course, we're seeing watches and warnings that are being issued now. Tropical storm watches and warnings for parts of the Bahamas. So I'm going to issue a weather impact alert for Monday. And yes, it's possible that many of us don't see many major impacts as far as rain is concerned. But I do this because I want it on the front of your mind. Now, this is not because we think this is going to be a direct landfalling situation on our first coast, though we are within the cone at this moment. But I do know, again, those main coastal impacts, but I do it because I just want you to continue checking in with us. Of course, we're getting updates every few hours. We get new numbers at 8. We'll get brand new numbers and positioning at 11 with new forecast cones, and that'll happen a couple of different times throughout our day. And I'll show you those numbers here in a minute. Let's dive right into it. Let's talk about Hurricane Umberto, 115-mile-an-hour winds, a Category 3 hurricane. This is as of the 5 o'clock advisory. Forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane by maybe tomorrow even. It's gaining strength and it's doing it rapidly. But you notice with this cone that the forecast is pretty consistent, high confidence that this is going to turn away between Bermuda and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Though Bermuda needs to be monitoring this very, very carefully. Kind of dodged a bullet with the last couple of storms, but with this one, we need to watch carefully. You also notice in yellow there, if you look towards Nassau, Bahamas, we got some tropical storm watches in place right now for parts of the Bahamas. Now, this is a different looking cone than what we have with Umberto. This is for potential Tropical Cyclone 9, what would ultimately be named Imelda, but right now not quite up to even depression status, though that could happen overnight tonight, could happen as early as 11 o'clock tonight, or overnight or early in the morning. So we would have a depression as it gets into more open waters, and then tropical storm strength. But notice what happens with the rest of this cone as we kind of look up more towards the north. It's got that big kind of round bubble with it as we get into Monday. It's a tight cone until about Sunday afternoon, and then uncertainty enters the picture with computer modeling, and the National Hurricane Center kind of broadens it out, meaning there is potential, certainly, with the uncertainty in the modeling, that this tropical storm, potential hurricane, Category 1 storm, could impact as far as the first coast of Florida all the way up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So take a look at this. It is kind of a different look. But again, that end of the forecast period has so much uncertainty with all the various steering currents, including a front, including high pressure to the north, including a jet stream, and Umberto. That's right. How could that potentially get involved in the mix and get close enough to where kind of maybe helps push or pull or rotate, shear, etc. With this storm? Looking down kind of lower level, the areas in blue and tropical storm warnings right now, and then some of the out islands, including Nassau, but also the Abacos, so Marsh Harbor, Total K, those places certainly in the tropical storm watch. So that means conditions over the next 48 hours are probable to get tropical storm force winds there. Now, looking up at that big broad area of potential maybe landfall or where this goes, a few options here. Notice how the Hurricane Center kind of stops things Tuesday afternoon. And it does not have the storm truly crossing over the state of South Carolina into Charleston, where it's kind of lined up with right now. That's because there is still modeling that would suggest this thing halts, does a turnaround, and goes back out to open water. There's also models that would show it heading land. So the uncertainty. So we watch for Monday. That's when late Monday and maybe even into early morning Tuesday, when this storm, which could slow down a bit, would be about latitudinally abeam with Jacksonville. All right, so when we issue watches and warnings, or when the Hurricane Center does. So I mentioned watch conditions possible within the next 48 hours. Warning conditions are expected, as in they will happen, within the next 36 hours. So timing is of the essence. That's a big reason why the Hurricane Center puts out potential tropical cyclones as opposed to straight up waiting until a depression is formed or a tropical storm or hurricane. Because of the timing, the proximity to land, and folks' preparations. So this is a product they put out that is extremely helpful with forecasting. I mentioned timing, so remember Tropical Cyclone Advisory schedule. You do get intermediates coming in, so 5 and 11 are the full updates. 2 and 8 o'clock would be intermediate advisories when watches or warnings could be updated. Storm details, location, things like that can be updated as well. But you get real cone updates 5 and 11 o'clock. All right, so let's look at some modeling. This is our in-house model, and it only runs out so far. So we're going to look at the Saturday, Sunday. We do keep rain chances in the forecast for Saturday, some widely scattered isolated showers, maybe a thunderstorm or two for Saturday, not a washout. And this actually isn't tropically induced. This has nothing to do with our potential tropical cyclone or anything in the tropics. This is a front that's come through and perhaps will stall out. Now let's fast forward into Sunday. Notice our wind shift, and notice how things start coming out of the east and the southeast. And now this is when things start getting tropically induced. So we know our low pressure will be to our south, getting counterclockwise flow around that. We start getting those east-southeast winds. And so Sunday we could get some extra moisture in from the Atlantic, and that could bring us a few showers as well. Let's fast forward. Let's go into Monday when I'm talking about us experiencing kind of our main impacts. Now this model, the in-house model, will only run out so far, and this is where the data kind of ends. We'll get more data, we'll get better looks at this system, but notice that would be a tropical storm, not fully closed off, but a tropical storm force strength at the center, which by Monday evening, this model a little bit slower, but Monday evening kind of off the Space Coast, that would mean Monday overnight into Tuesday morning would be when it would pass Jacksonville. But we could get a couple of feeder bands, really some moisture coming in, and this as when winds would really start to pick up at our coast. So take a look at forecast winds. All right, so Umberto to the right, potential tropical cyclone 9, but potentially Imelda very soon to the left over the Bahamas. Notice those winds beginning to pick up. When we start getting those yellows, those oranges and reds along the coast of Georgia and northeast Florida, that's when we could start to see 25 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts out at our beaches. So late Monday afternoon into Monday evening, we start to experience that, and look at even into Tuesday morning, some of those strong winds. Now, different orientation as the low has moved more towards the north. You get that wraparound. So that's going to be more out of the north and northwest by Tuesday. That's a better situation for us because any water that stacks up on the beach Monday afternoon into the evening would then kind of get pushed away. So that helps, but it would still be quite breezy. Also dry. So there is dry air off to the west. I'm going to show you that in a minute. This could actually usher in some much drier air, lower humidity levels for us as we get into Tuesday morning even. So while breezy, could have some cooler conditions out there. All right, so this shows the storm kind of stalling out by Tuesday night right off the coast of Charleston. Interesting, and something I'm kind of foreshadowing to in just a minute with our modeling. Going to Sunday night, we see our gusts kind of start peaking at 20 at our beaches. Getting into Monday, now Monday afternoon, we start to see winds getting up to that 30 mile an hour to 35 mile an hour wind gust range possible. All right, Umberto's computer model forecast, other than that one outlier, which, you take the outliers, you're like, everything is pretty consistent with that turn to the north. So we kind of disregard the outlier, but watch the computer models for what was 94L, now potential tropical cyclone 9. And look at this. So if you've ever seen, what's the movie Inside Out? It's an animated film, very good. The sequel, number 2, it's about a little girl's emotions that are up in her head. There's this character called Anxiety, and she's got orange hair that kind of goes out in all directions. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when I see this. But I got 2 small kids at the house. That's why I'm watching kids' movies. We're looking at a few models, and some very reliable ones at that, suggesting a pause at the coast and then a hard turn to the right. That's why this indicates why we would see potential for that bigger area in the column. All right, that's a quick look. We're going to take a short break. We continue this on the other side. And we are back. And okay, so that was the last image I left you with. So all the computer models over. Maybe spaghetti's not on the menu tonight. Maybe you don't really kind of digest best when we put spaghetti models up, and that's fine. So here's the GFS model in full motion, showing isobars, lines of equal pressure. You see the tighter concentric circles close together. That indicates a stronger storm. And if you look to the right, you see Umberto absolutely is forecast, a much stronger system, tight lines there indicating a stronger hurricane. Now to the left, what would be Imelda, that tropical storm, or perhaps a Category 1 hurricane. So certainly a little bit closer to the first coast, still some 100 miles offshore, which would limit direct impacts. But watch what this model does. This is Monday afternoon, right around Jacksonville, or at least level with Jacksonville. Watch as it gets up towards the Carolinas. Pause, it stops, just like that, and then turns. All right, so watch. This is Tuesday night. It's dumping a lot of rain on the coast of South Carolina. They're getting winds, but that center where the strongest winds would be don't quite get to land. Now, there's a front, there's a jet, there's high pressure, there is Umberto. Now, is Umberto going to be strong enough to actually try and pull and absorb Imelda into its tropical tail, almost creating a feeder band? That's what the GFS suggests right there. Very interesting. That's one option that is certainly on the table. Why folks in Charlotte or Western North Carolina may need to watch this extraordinarily carefully for rainfall rates, but this would be a best case scenario for them in an area that is just a year ago dealt with some of the most catastrophic flooding in history. then that would gear up a big nor'easter for us by the end of the week. All right, so looking at the European model, what does it resolve with all of those steering currents and with Umberto out there, very strong, very close to it? The European has it moving closer to Charleston or maybe even Myrtle Beach, so still South Carolina adjacent, but also has it pausing, turning a bit, going down the coast of South Carolina back towards Savannah, and kind of dissipating a bit as an open low right over the Savannah River. Again, why that kind of bulb at the end of the cone is so wide with all those potential outcomes. All right, so just looking at ice bars, taking the rain off so we're not overly inundated with that information, and just looking at the comparison between the GFS and the Euro on one page. GFS in the blue lines, European model in the yellow. So Monday afternoon, GFS a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, Euro a little weaker and a little slower, but strengthens it right in time to get close to the coast. You notice the move. GFS moves away with Umberto, and European model kind of just becomes that open low and more of a rainy kind of event over Charleston, but then towards Savannah. And then for us, perhaps nor'easter conditions. So here are those big steering currents on a model. And this model data only goes out so far as well, that in-house model I was mentioning. So we've got the front that has brought us our rain for today, and our rain that'll linger kind of over Saturday. And that has a lot of dry air behind it, and also a lot of wind shear, a lot of steering with it. Battling up against that kind of push away is our high pressure, and it's strong high pressure near the Great Lakes that's going to move over the northeast. Modeling having a hard time dealing with what's going to be the big deciding factor. Will it be the front, which would push away? Would it be the high, which would steer it into the Carolinas a little more robustly? Or will it be even Umberto or a combination of a couple things that ultimately steer it away? So a few things to keep in mind there as we kind of watch that high move to the northeast. We do have wind shear, and that's going to help kind of flatten out one half of it and also pump in dry air to it later on into this process into Monday, why maybe our rain chances would be a bit, perhaps a little bit limited with this. So we would, of course, have to see what feeder bands kind of try to pump in, but especially as it moves north of us and we start getting those northwest winds, that dry air. So this is your water vapor imagery live. All right, so this is what's happening, a loop, but the last 2 hours, and ultimately the live picture. Look how dry that air. So the white, the blues, that's moist air in the atmosphere, middle and upper layers of the atmosphere. The yellows and the browns and the black that you see there, that would be really dry air. The driest air would be over New Orleans, the Gulf right now, and that's all trying to move this way. One thing that could absolutely suck it in right over us would be an area of low pressure, like a tropical system in Melba, as it moves up, could certainly pull that dry air in. That would be one of those steering factors, and perhaps something that could impact our rain chances as we get to late Monday into Tuesday, and why we could have some pretty low dew points as we get there as well. Notice in our rainfall too, I want to kind of notice these rainfall totals because this is through a period of time. This isn't just one rain event, but for today, for Saturday, and into Sunday. So through 6 o'clock Saturday, some pockets could get maybe up to an inch of rain, okay, with our showers that we're anticipating in the forecast. Notice the darker purples, that would indicate a little more rain, but even through Sunday afternoon, not overly impressed, just more people getting it. But look at what happens towards Charleston. So that's upwards of 10 inches, 9 to 10 inches of rain that could fall over the peninsula of Charleston down to Beaufort and up towards Myrtle Beach. But notice what doesn't happen. Those same colors don't really change over northeast Florida. Now, Glenn County, certainly getting upwards of 2 inches, at least according to this forecast model. But for the most part, we don't get a whole lot of rain, according to this. Maybe that dry air has something to do with it. I think one of our big impacts, though, we do need to watch for will be the rip current risk with those northeast winds at 10 to 20, gusts 25 to 30, the water stacking up at least late Sunday into Monday especially. Not the ideal beach day, and got to use extra caution. Now, it's going to be during the work week anyway, so not anticipating a lot of people, necessarily having the day off to go to the beach. If you do, avoid the water or use extreme caution because it's going to be kind of a messy day as we look to the beach. And that'll be one of our bigger impacts. All right, I'm going to wrap this up here after this short break with a look at more of our local forecasting, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. And let's wrap it all up. So again, I'm showing this graphic for a second time just because I want to hammer home the point. The big three headlines with the tropics. Main impacts east of the first coast, Monday through the day. And then we look Monday night into Tuesday morning, potentially as well. We've got a weather impact alert for our Monday, and that may need to be expanded or dropped altogether. There are adjustments that can and will be made. We're not so hard-headed that we can't make adjustments, right? The forecast does change. So rough seas and surf with dangerous rip current continues to be that main impact we'll be watching. There will be bands of rain, but how much rain, that's yet to be determined. Specific forecast track and intensity is yet to be determined as well. But we are getting more and more data in as we watch for a forecast of Tropical Storm Imelda, perhaps by Saturday, at least a tropical depression and even tropical storm perhaps by the afternoon. All right, so let's come home and take a look just as you are preparing for your evening. If it involves maybe heading out for the night, awesome. If you have to run a few errands, you're going to go have a cocktail. Dry around the region. Some strong thunderstorms have moved offshore. I'm looking up towards southeast Georgia. Waycross had some moderate rainfall and some up just in the southern end of Ware County right now. Pierce County getting a little bit. And I was watching to see if this would perhaps impact some high school football, but I think Camden County, Glenn County, you're doing good. The rest of our region, the end of those games will be just fine. Those strong thunderstorms now moving off of Daytona Beach. So overall, pretty solid evening with temperatures in the mid-70s right now. If you're going out at the beach, it is about 80 degrees. So we see that at Mayport, 77 on St. Simons. Tomorrow morning lows as you're waking up, low 70s. We could see even some upper 60s around Lake City and towards Valdosta as well, get a little further west. So some comfortable morning lows. Your Saturday, we're maxing out at 85 degrees. On and off rain is expected, and even a couple of rumbles of thunder as we have the lightning icon on there for Saturday. Not a washout of a day, okay? Keep your plans, but have the poncho or the rain jacket or umbrella handy, okay, just because of that chance for a shower. Mid-80s for you. And I'm wrapping it up with the 7-day forecast. So things to watch, right? So I implore you, continue to check in with us. Okay, it doesn't have to be all day every day, but maybe twice a day. Pick your favorite times, and if you're not checking us out here on First Coast News Plus on air, or maybe just go to firstcoastnews.com. We're updating everything with our personal forecasting there as well, right as those updates come in. So lots of different sources to get your information from there. I would say Saturday, Sunday, let's just be weather aware. Monday, I put a weather impact alert in, not necessarily because it's going to be a washout of a day. In fact, it may not, but because there are still so many variables that can happen. I want all of us to be prepared and that nothing sneaks up on us as we get Monday and we get that tropical system hopefully moving well off our coast. But any western ticks closer to the coast means our impacts go up just a bit, and that would mean stronger winds, bigger waves, and better chance of seeing more widespread rainfall. Then we transition out. So by Wednesday, winds are going to start shifting. And towards the end of the week, long range, we could see another nor'easter situation set up for us, and that's why we're kind of bumping up rain chances as we go to Friday and those northeast winds as well. So appreciate you streaming along with us. Thanks for checking your tropics and being weather aware. Spend the weekend, enjoying it, have a fantastic time, but every once in a while, maybe just check on the latest track of what will ultimately become Imelda and see which way it will be heading and what it will mean for us. In the meantime, I'll see you back here if you're going to be up late night. I'll be on TV with you at 11 p.m. Have a good one.